When the knock came at 7:12 a.m., it wasn't the sound that stopped me cold. It was the photo my renter sent seconds later. A yellow notice taped crookedly to the front door. Bold letters. Eviction notice. No court seal. No case number. Just threats, deadlines, and a fake HOA logo I barely recognized. My stomach dropped, then burned. Because I don't belong to an HOA, the property never has. And the people who posted that notice had exactly zero legal authority to do anything at all. I bought the duplex 8 years ago, long before the surrounding subdivision even existed. Separate parcel, separate utilities, separate access road. It was boring, clean, and legally airtight. I rented the downstairs unit to a quiet single mom who paid early and kept the place spotless. So when she called, shaking, asking if sheriffs were coming, something inside me snapped into focus. Someone was playing a dangerous game with the wrong owner. Within an hour, I had photos, timestamps, and a scanned copy of the eviction. The wording was laughably wrong. Wrong statutes, wrong deadlines, a demand for immediate surrender unless a compliance fine was paid. Directly to the HOA treasurer, cash only. That was the moment fear turned into clarity. This wasn't enforcement. It was extortion dressed up as authority. I drove to the property and found 3 neighbors watching from across the street. Arms folded, smug like they'd already won. One of them filmed me with her phone as if daring me to react. I didn't. I peeled the notice off, photographed the adhesive residue, and went straight home. No confrontation, no arguments, just evidence. My lawyer answered on the second ring. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't rant. He just asked for documents and smiled when I mentioned the fake board letterhead. They impersonated a governing body, he said. That's not a civil mistake. That's a problem. By sunset, my renter had a written assurance that no eviction was possible, no authority existed, and no one would step foot on the property again. But that was only the beginning, because the people who taped that notice to my door had no idea what they'd just triggered or how expensive pretending to be powerful was about to become. I documented everything that night, backing up files twice and labeling folders carefully. Dates, angles, fonts, even spelling errors mattered. I knew patterns like this always escalated when ignored. Someone would double down. Someone would threaten again. And when they did, I wanted a clean timeline ready. Calm preparation beats loud outrage every time, especially when authority is being faked and pressure is the weapon they rely on. Fear, haste, and silence from victims. 2 days later, the fake authority tried again, louder this time. My renter forwarded another message. This one slid under the door at night. Same logo, new threats. Now it claimed the HOA board had voted unanimously to remove unauthorized occupants and would begin daily fines until the unit was vacated. The language was sharper, more confident, like someone convincing themselves they were untouchable. What they didn't know was that every move they made only strengthened our position. I drove over again, this time during daylight, and walked the perimeter slowly. The subdivision signs all pointed inward, carefully avoiding my parcel. No shared road, no shared drainage, no recorded easement. The survey pins were exactly where the county map said they were. I took fresh photos anyway. When people lie about boundaries, physical proof matters more than opinions. A neighbor finally approached me, lowering his voice like he was doing me a favor. He said the board had decided my duplex was lowering property values. That renters didn't fit the vision. He suggested I cooperate before things got complicated. I thanked him for the information and asked who sat on this board. He named 3 homeowners, none of whom had any recorded authority over my land. Not now, not ever. Back home, my lawyer compiled everything into a single demand letter. It wasn't long. It didn't insult anyone. It simply stated facts. No jurisdiction, no covenants, no consent. Then it outlined consequences: impersonation, harassment, interference with tenancy. Each allegation referenced statutes by number, not emotion. The final paragraph gave them one instruction: cease immediately. Remove all notices and communicate only through counsel. Before sending it, we pulled public records. That's when things got interesting. There was no registered HOA entity matching their letterhead. No filings, no insurance, no elections. Just a social media group calling itself a board. They weren't just overreaching. They were imaginary. The letter went out certified and by email. Within an hour, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I didn't answer. Then another. Voicemail. Anger, then fear. Then bargaining. They claimed it was a misunderstanding, that someone went too far. They asked if we could talk it out like neighbors. We didn't respond. That night, my renter slept peacefully for the first time since the notice appeared. I checked in, reassured her again, and reminded her to call me if anyone came near the door. No one did. Silence settled in, thick and telling. Because when false authority meets real law, the noise stops fast. Still, I knew silence didn't mean surrender. It meant regrouping. People who invent power rarely give it up easily. They look for a new angle, a new pressure point, a different victim. And sure enough, the next move came not to me, but to the city. The city inspector's email landed in my inbox at 8:03 a.m., polite on the surface but heavy with implication. It said a complaint had been filed, alleging an illegal rental unit operating without approval from the local homeowners association. That single sentence told me everything. The fake board had changed tactics. If they couldn't scare my renter, they'd try to weaponize bureaucracy. I called my lawyer before replying. He laughed once, short and sharp. They just put their fingerprints on it, he said. We drafted a response attaching the deed, parcel map, zoning compliance letter, and the original subdivision approval that clearly excluded my lot. We CC'd the city attorney. Facts neatly stacked. The inspector showed up anyway. He was professional, almost apologetic, clipboard in hand. I walked him through the property, pointing out separate meters, separate access, and the survey markers. He nodded, taking photos, asking questions that already sounded answered. Before leaving, he told me off the record that the complaint named a governing HOA board as the authority, requesting enforcement. He raised an eyebrow when I told him no such authority existed. That afternoon, the fake board made their boldest mistake yet. They sent my renter an email copying the city, claiming the inspection proved the unit was illegal and demanding she vacate within 48 hours. They signed it as HOA Enforcement Committee. No lawyer. No disclaimer. Just more threats. My lawyer didn't even edit this time. He forwarded the email to the city attorney with one line. Please advise why a non-existent entity is attempting to direct municipal enforcement. Then he filed a formal cease and desist on my behalf, including evidence of repeated harassment and interference with tenancy. The tone shifted instantly. By evening, the city responded. The complaint was closed. No violations found. No further action required. More importantly, the city requested documentation from the individuals claiming to represent the HOA, documentation they didn't have. The group chat went quiet. Social media posts vanished. One of the named board members deactivated her account entirely. Another posted a vague message about stepping back from community leadership. Fear had finally found the right address. I met my renter the next day to reassure her in person. She asked why people would go this far over a property they didn't own. I told her the truth. Some people mistake loud agreement for legal power. They enforce feelings, not laws, until someone pushes back with paper. But the story didn't end with silence. Because impersonating authority doesn't just fade away. It leaves consequences. And my lawyer was already preparing the final step, not to punish, but to make sure it never happened again. The demand letter wasn't the end. It was the setup. My lawyer explained that stopping harassment was one thing, but preventing it from resurfacing required a paper trail that couldn't be ignored or spun later. So we escalated, not emotionally, but procedurally. Every move from this point on was designed to close doors permanently. First came the formal notice of legal exposure. It outlined potential civil claims: interference with contractual relations, harassment of a tenant, impersonation of an association, and filing false reports to a municipality. Each claim was paired with documented evidence, dates, screenshots, metadata. It wasn't a threat. It was a map showing exactly how far they'd already walked into liability. Next, my lawyer contacted the actual subdivision developer, whose name still appeared on older planning documents. He confirmed in writing that no HOA had ever been legally formed for my parcel, and that any board claiming authority beyond recorded boundaries was acting independently and without consent. That email alone collapsed their entire narrative. We also filed a police informational report, not a charge, not a complaint, just a record. It documented that false eviction notices had been posted by unknown individuals, claiming authority they did not possess. This mattered. If anything happened again, it would no longer be treated as a misunderstanding. It would be treated as a pattern. The response was immediate and chaotic. One board member emailed an apology, blaming stress and community pressure. Another demanded to know why. Lawyers were involved, as if law was an escalation instead of a boundary. The third said nothing at all. Silence can be loud when people realize they can't talk their way out. My renter received a final message from them that night, short, careful. It said they were withdrawing prior communications and acknowledged they had no authority over the property. No apology, no explanation. Just retreat. The following week, my lawyer recorded an affidavit summarizing the entire incident, attaching every piece of evidence. It was filed, time-stamped, and stored. Not because we planned to sue, but because now, if anyone ever tried this again, the response would be instant and devastating. I walked the property one more time, noticing how normal everything felt again. No watchers, no phones raised, just quiet routines resuming. Power like theirs only exists when no one challenges it. Once confronted with consequences, it evaporates fast. The lesson wasn't about winning. It was about clarity. Authority isn't claimed. It's granted, recorded, and limited. And when people fake it, the law doesn't argue, it corrects. All that remained was the aftermath. How the neighborhood adjusted. How the fake board dissolved. And what happens when pretend power meets permanent records. By the time the dust settled, the neighborhood felt different. Quieter. Not calmer exactly, more cautious. The fake board never announced it was disbanding, but it didn't have to. Meetings stopped. Group messages went inactive. The signs of authority they once leaned on. Logos. Titles, confident threats, vanished overnight. Power, when exposed as pretend, doesn't fade gradually. It collapses. The city sent one final email, confirming the matter was closed, and noting that no homeowners association had jurisdiction over my parcel. That message went into my records, backed up twice, and printed for the property file. My lawyer reminded me that closure isn't just emotional, it's administrative. When paperwork agrees with reality, future problems struggle to take shape. I checked in with my renter regularly after that. The fear lingered longer than the conflict itself. She admitted she'd started looking at other places, worried that living there made her a target. I told her she wasn't the problem, she was the proof. Proof that intimidation only works when people feel alone. Once the law steps in, the balance changes. A month later, one of the former board members tried to approach me in public, offering an awkward, half smile and a comment about miscommunication. I didn't engage. There was nothing left to explain. Boundaries had been drawn in ink, not conversation. Some lessons don't need discussion. They need consequences. What struck me most was how easily this could have gone the other way. If my renter had panicked and left, if I'd ignored the first notice, if fear had rushed the timeline instead of documentation. Fake authority thrives on speed and confusion. Real authority moves slowly, deliberately, and leaves a trail that can't be erased. I never sued them. I didn't need to. The goal was never revenge. It was resolution. The record now exists. The affidavits exist. The city correspondence exists. Anyone who tries this again won't be starting from zero. They'll be starting from a documented history of overreach. Owning property teaches you strange lessons. Not just about maintenance or money, but about restraint. The strongest response isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a quiet letter, a calm phone call. A lawyer who knows exactly which statute to cite. Power respects preparation. The duplex is still there. Still separate. Still boring. And that's exactly how I like it. Because peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the presence of certainty. And once certainty is established, fake power has nowhere left to stand.